Greetings YouTube, this is Sixes, and previously we discussed the 10 worst Archetypal Counter Trap cards, and this time we shall be discussing the opposite. To clarify, we were talking about the best counter traps based on how well they synergize with their related archetypes. And to put this into perspective, let's examine our honorable mention, Emergeroid Call. Looking at the effect, we see that not only does it negate the activation of any spell, trap card, or monster effect, but it then sends all the cards with the same name as that negated card from that player's deck and extra deck to their graveyard, which makes it a very strong counter trap, as let's say for example, you use this card to prevent the activation of a such card like Terraforming or Fossil Dig. You have now completely prevented your opponent from using that card for the remainder of the duel, provided that they lack graveyard retrieval. This effect is even once per turn. That clause, however, is reserved for its secondary effect. You see, you can banish this card from your graveyard in order to return one void monster from your grave to your hand. Clearly, this effect is amazing. The issue, however, is a requirement. In order to use the negation, you must control a fusion void monster. What's wrong with this? Well, they do have two methods of fusion summoning without resorting to outside archetype support. But Vehicoid Connection Zone is unsearchable and can only bring out 3 very difficult to summon monsters, and Mixeroid is about as useful as instant fusion due to both of them destroying the summoned monster before your opponent's turn even begins. So yeah, perfect in a vacuum, terrible in execution. Now that we're on the same page, number 10. Vampire Domination. If you control a vampire monster, you can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect's activation, then destroy it. That is as basic as it gets. But it doesn't stop at basic, because if it negates and destroys a monster, you gain life points equal to that monster's attack, allowing you to pay the cost of your vampire monster's effects, including, conveniently enough, Vampire Retainer, which can search out Domination for the cost of 500 life points. Number 9. 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing features the basic negation effect if you control a Yang Zing card. Not monster, just card. And then shuffles that negated card into the deck, i.e. no floating or graveyard effects. And then destroys one Yang Zing card you control, which in turn would trigger their floating effects. Number 8. You know how heroic monsters enjoy being tributed? Well, what if you could not only special summon a dragon from your deck, but also negate any effect while doing so? If so, then Heroic Zero Reflection is perfect for you. They try and make some plays thinking that you can't do anything because they already bait out your zero attack Link monster, and all you have are some random face downs. Then they'll play a stopped and you have a red MD on board. Sure, you still have a zero attack monster on board, but that's still better than nothing. Number 7. Rebirth of Parsath. Of course, the essential trap of counter phase would have to make it. By revealing a counter trap in your hand, discarding a card, and paying 1,000 life points, you can negate anything and shuffle that card into the deck. Then you can summon out one Parsath monster from your deck or extra deck. The cost should in no way deter you from using this card. On paper, it's a large cost, but the penalty effect of guiding Ariadne removes all life point and discard cost from your counter traps. Due to this, the cost is simply yes, reveal a counter trap in your hand in order to stop your opponent's play and summon out a monster for free. Sounds pretty good to me. Number 6. Sotelo Nova Alpha. This card can negate anything by sending one Tellarknight monster you control to the grave, and then you get a draw card. As far as the cost, Altair on summon can resurrect a Tellarknight monster from your grave, and also Deltros and Tribble have some form of floating when they're sent from the field to the graveyard. And the added draw power is simply overkill at this point. In summary, my opinion of this card is the same as the archetype it supports. Great, yet boring. Number 5. Musa Connie can negate and destroy anything, provided that the effect will destroy a card you control and that you control a 6 samurai monster. Because of the oppressive control and charming nature of 6 samurai, it can help secure your field against mass removal cards such as Oigeki, while also serving as backup for CN. Now let's say that when you activate CN's effect to negate a card, your opponent activates a counter trap which would remove CN from the field, at which point you activate your own counter trap to protect your legendary samurai so that it doesn't get removed and it can still negate your opponent's card. Number 4. We have Magical Musket Last Stand. This card can negate and destroy a spell trap card while you possess a Magical Musketeer. Wait, that's all it does? It can't even stop monster effects. How'd this make it on the list? Well, here's the best part. Every Magical Musketeer monster has the effect that you can activate Magical Musket cards from your hand during either player's turn. Because of this, backward destruction isn't even an issue. And going even further, every Musketeer has effect when a spell or trap card is activated in the same column as it. These effects can search out a Magical Musket card, summon a Musketeer from the deck, or let you draw. As if you weren't getting enough advantage already. Number 3. Infinity Burial. In brief, with no cards in your hand and an Infinity monster on your field, you can negate anything. Given that it's limited on the ban list, its inclusion here on the list should have been expected. And because I've expected it is, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. Number 2. Tachyon Transmigration. If you control any Galaxy-sized monster, you can negate all of your opponent's cards which were activated prior to this card in this chain, and then shuffle those cards into the deck. For those that don't know, the active chain blocking is when you order a chain in such a way that your opponent cannot use a solemn card to negate their more important cards. This is done by building your chain so that, let's say you summon Ether, the Heavenly Monarch, while Return of the Monarchs is active on the field. Because of both these effects activating on Ether's summon, you can set Ether as Chain Link 1 and Return as Chain Link 2. Because most counter traps have a win statement, they can only respond to Return because that's the effect that happened last. Tachyon Transmigration, however, is not like most counter traps. In this scenario, it can negate both Ether and Return, shuffling both of them back into the deck. Meaning that this is the only counter trap, to my knowledge, that says if instead of when. It can also prove detrimental to any Chain Link heavy decks, such as Chain Burn, Paleozoics, or Mermaid Atlanteans. As if that wasn't enough, it's not even once per turn, and if you control a Galaxy-sized Tachyon Dragon monster, you can activate it from your hand. Moving on to number 1. All of these cards can negate a lot of effects, so it could possibly top all of these. That would be Signet Conflict. This card can negate anything if you control a Code Talker monster, and then banish that negated card, but your opponent can't even use cards or the effects of cards with the same name as that banished card until the next turn. And that's what it has that everything else lacks. Banish removal and prolonged negation. As far as consistency goes, just use Microcoder as a link material from your hand for the summon of any Code Talker monster, and then you'll not only be able to search out Signet Conflict with Microcoder's effect, but you'll even have the activation requirement on board. So yeah, that was my list. If you think of anything I missed, feel free to comment down below in the comments.